My name is Jean Seelan. I'm a member of League of Women Voters, and welcome to our candidates forum for our Metro
Get up here.
our Metro legislative candidates. I just want to tell you a little bit about what we're going to do this evening, okay? First of all, the forum is sponsored by the BlackHawk-Bremer League of Women Voters and the NAACP of Blackhawk County. The agenda for tonight is pretty straightforward and pretty simple. We're going to introduce our candidates in just a moment. We're going to give them time for an opening statement, and during their opening statements, they may wish to describe their new district because some of the boundary lines have changed. So you might want to tell us your district. And then I have a couple of questions I want to ask them. And then after that, we want your questions. Pat Harper is in charge of questions tonight. She's sitting in the back. So if you need paper to write a question on, please raise your hand and she'll give you a sheet of paper, and then raise your hand again and she'll come and pick it up. So while we're doing opening statements and the candidates are answering two moderator asked questions, please be writing your own questions. I'll wait till those come down.
Somebody's back.
Oh,
Nice.
that's very nice. Yes. And we're thankful to Hawkeye College for allowing us to use this space. Let's go ahead and I will introduce the candidates we have with us tonight. Bill Dotzler, Kate Wyatt, Bob Cressy, Timmy Brown Powers, John Bothwell, and Jerome Amos Jr. Why don't we start on this end with Jerome for opening statements, if you would be so kind?
I think 2 minutes, right?
Well, you know what, since we've decided we're going to fudge a little bit, we're going to give you about 4 minutes, okay? So that's fine.
Just watch Jerry.
Yeah.
Just watch Jerry.
I don't think I was gonna get to 2, so I'm good.
Okay.
Good evening, everyone. For me, it's on. Yeah. Good evening, everyone. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Jerome Amos Jr. I'm a lifelong resident of Waterloo, Iowa. Been a member of the Waterloo City Council for 7 years. That's my most recent assignment, I guess is the best way to put it. But I've been actively involved in my community for many years. I'm a UAW Local 838 member to this day. I still pay dues even though I retired in 2010, and been blessed to be able to do a lot of different things for this community I live in. So for me, there was an opportunity that came up for me to be able to run for this House District 62 position, and I took advantage of it. Got encouragement from a few folks, and I just decided that, yes, I would use this voice that I've been given to try and make a difference in the community that I live in. For me, I'm a blue collar worker. I have worked 33 years, should have been 36 years, but I lost 3 in the early 80s. And during that time, I had many opportunities to do a lot of different things for this community. Within my union, by the way, my union is the backdrop or the background for everything that you see me doing and everything that you will see that I will be doing once I get to that position at the state level. But for me, you know, this community, I've had opportunity to do many things, work with a lot of different individuals to make changes in Waterloo, to make changes in the Cedar Valley. And as things move forward, I'm an open book. If you have more questions of me, feel free to ask them. I have a website, Amos for House 62. If you search Facebook, it'll take you to my webpage for Facebook. And then from there, there's different links to get to my actual page. So from there, like I say, I'm doing this not for myself, I'm doing this for those up there who are voiceless, who need us to do the things necessary to make their lives better. So a lot more I could say, but I'll stop right there, and I'm sure we'll have many conversations moving forward.
Thank you. John?
First off, I just want to thank everyone for stopping out here tonight. Also want to thank the League of Women's Voters and the NAACP for putting on events like this. I think it's awesome that everyone gets to come out and meet the candidates on a little bit more personal level. Also want to thank Jane. I just heard she's been doing this for 30 years now, which is crazy. Thank you.
I started when I was 12.
My name is John Bockel. I'm running for House District 61. I'm a resident of Waterloo, originally from Mason City, Iowa. Attended Newman Catholic High School and graduated from Morningside in Sioux City. Many of my friends and family are a little surprised when I told them I've decided to run for office because, you know, I've really never voiced political aspirations. And honestly, it's a little bit out of my comfort zone to be up here in front of you guys and, you know, talking with you and asking for donations and, you know, most importantly, asking for your votes. It's a tough thing for me to do. And the reason why I kind of decided to devote my time and money to doing this is I'm just a little disgusted with what our political system has become. I'm not sure when things got so tribalistic, but I just don't seeing us getting anywhere recently. So that's a big reason why I decided to run. And I don't claim to have all the answers. You know, I just think it's time we started taking some steps in the right direction. Thank you.
Thank you. Timmy?
Hi, everybody. Great to see all of you and see the new faces, and hello, everybody out on Facebook world. And thank you, John, for stepping up, because it is. I remember when I first did it, it is out of our comfort zone and it is totally different. And I concur, the toxic environment sometimes is very overwhelming, to say the least. But what you have to do is pick folks that you know you can work with. We have successfully done that to get, you know, legislation pulled forward for the food bank and other things. And so it is a process, to say the least, in Des Moines. The District 61 is where I'm currently a representative, and I just will, in January, will finish my 4th term there, and hopefully start my 5th term. The district has changed considerably, actually. I used to have this section down here, downtown to the river. We no longer have that. I have Kimball used to be my cutoff. It was Kimball and East. It's now Kimball and West. And East, except for Liberty Park. They carved a chunk out of Liberty Park. I'm not sure why, because, you know, it's supposed to be squares, right? It's not. And then they actually gave a section, added a section to 61 across the river, north and east, and then all the way east. So some of the rural part of Waterloo too. So the district was kind of all hashed up a little bit. And that is the reason that Roz decided that he wasn't going to run. He now lives, well, he would have lived in my district regardless. Because the new lines actually went to just his block and then cut over, which I'm pretty sure was not an accident, but that's okay. But he now lives on Prospect, so he's he's on the west side of Kimball. So look forward to continuing though the work with him, because he was a great asset for us at the State House, does a lot with the schools. He is doing a lot with the foundation. We are doing a lot with the nonprofits in this area and continue to do that. So this summer, again, last summer, I spent really working with all the nonprofits. And as I did that, I when you got down to it, 96% of the nonprofits were run by our strong women of the Cedar Valley. So this summer I spent a couple different events just focusing on the strong women of Cedar Valley. And those were very successful events and just kind of empowering them and working with those gals. I've got 2 more events that we'll hold and more general than that. This summer, we have been still busy working on constituent needs. Those are never short. So yesterday and today, working on a Medicaid case. Right now, you would have think by now that Medicaid would not be such a hassle for folks, but it is still a gigantic hassle for families to maneuver around, for folks to get their access to their care and their wheelchairs. So right now I'm working with a patient. He's got a CP. He needs a custom chair. And of course, Iowa Total Care denied that. So we are going to go to battle with Iowa Total Care and get this gentleman the chair that he deserves and that he should have. We also are working with 2 different gentlemen on some unemployment issues. If we remember, the unemployment changed last session. And so there's some huge loopholes, and we've got some people in the Cedar Valley that are falling through those loopholes, and they don't have the money to take care of their families. So with that, I'll pass it down to Bob.
Thank you, Timmy. Bob?
All right. Okay. It's really kind of nice to see everybody here. The weather, boy, what a transition we've had. Just yesterday was like 95 degrees and today it's 70. It's supposed to be chilly Billy tonight, but anyway. Well, my name is Bob Kressig, and my current district is 59, which primarily houses Cedar Falls. The new drawing changed the number to 75. And the district stays pretty much so within the Cedar Falls area. I picked up some of the other parts of the old district that Dave Williams had. And had the opportunity I'm involved with quite a few things. I know Timmy and I have worked on the mental health issue at the state level. I'm actually on the state mental health advisory board, and I met today with them. And, one of the things that I saw in that meeting was that many of the things that we did in the past are really not how we should approach mental health issues. And it was a good conversation. I could stay on there all day, but really was a good conversation. Overall, it's kind of interesting. I just got asked this question. I've done this multiple times. How many in this room want to legalize marijuana? Yeah. I have asked this question of several people. I've been at multiple events, meetings, and it's just overwhelming the numbers of people that are saying yes. And so I don't know what's going to happen this session with that, but I think the voters I think Missouri actually has it on the ballot down there this year that they are going to be voting on it. Illinois has it. Minnesota's looking at it. South Dakota has it. And Nebraska's looking at it, and then Missouri. So if you look at where we're at as a state, my sense is that some of the issues, the division that exists today, I mean, I think we've all seen it, we've heard it based on how you think politically and how you don't, has really driven this divide pretty significantly. And I'm hopeful that we can make some changes going forward. I actually have a website, Bob Kressig, If you Google my name, you can get my website. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram. And I've been fairly engaged in conversations with people this election, and look forward to hearing your questions and comments as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Kate?
Hello, everyone. Bob didn't mention his favorite thing all summer long is riding ragbri though, right?
Yeah,
That's how he talks to everybody across the state every year. So that's his best one, but
35 of them.
35 ragbris. So my name is Kate Wyatt. Yeah, Roger's probably ridden more than 35 of them though. He might have.
No, he hasn't.
My name's Kate Wyatt and I am running for Iowa House District 76. Dave Williams previously held the seat that I'm running for, but it has drastically changed, just like Timmy and Bob have alluded to as well. My district went very far south. So we do encompass a large chunk of Cedar Falls, including everything behind Target Distribution and the new Cedar Falls High School, as well as other areas over towards the Western Home. But we do not include a campus, unfortunately, because those are my favorites over there. But then we come back south to Hudson, Traer, Dysart, Gilbertville, LaPorte City, Mount Auburn, Evansdale, Elk Run, Washburn, Orange, all those great communities, and a slice of Waterloo as well. So we do have a very large district. We encompass 3 different counties we actually touch on. So I have been spending a lot of time in the last 5 months. I mean, how many months has it been now? It's been a lot of months recently, talking to people, knocking doors in each community that I can get to, making those phone calls to try to do that. I am a lifelong Hudson resident, born and raised, grew up, went to Hudson High School, graduated in 1995, and then attended Hawkeye Community College afterwards, as well as Upper Iowa University. So I work for a local DuPaco credit union. I am in insurance sales. I have spent the last 9 years on the Hudson City Council. With that, I've also chaired our Public Safety Committee, which oversees our police and fire, as well as the Mayor's Task Force for Economic Development. So I've spent a lot of time with the Cedar Valley folks, the Hudson Chamber of Commerce. I've been a member of that for the last 9 years as well. Also a board member for our Women Lead Change Cedar Valley group, which meets monthly, and we're doing some fun stuff with them. I've also been on the My Waterloo Days board for the last few years. I love classic cars. In the summer, my dad and I play cars. So I do run the Hudson Days Car Show and the My Waterloo Days Car Show and a couple others. So that's my fun time that I get to experience. My dad was a self-employed electrician, so I grew up in a business family. And he did a lot of work with the community and with the city of Hudson. So I really gained my roots in our city our political system very early, working with all of those people, and have gone with that method that to make a change, somebody's got to be the person to stand up and make that change. Dave and I had spoken after he had made the difficult decision not to run. And I was a board member for the BlackHawk County Gaming Board for 6 years and kind of joked with him that term was coming to an end. So I needed a new project. And he told me he had a project for me. And I thought this was a little bit larger of a project than I was initially thinking, but I'm excited for the opportunity. I've been speaking with a lot of constituents and a lot of the people that actually live in District 76 lately, and their concerns are the same: mental health, our women's rights, our schools being funded. Those are the main concerns that people have. And I am super excited to get to Des Moines after the November election and to help continue the good work that Bob and Timmy have done over the last terms and making sure that we can take care of Iowans and what they need.
Thank you, Kate. And Bill?
Okay, thank you. Got my own timer here.
Watch for Jerry.
Yeah, keeping an eye on Jerry, but thank you. And I was just thinking back to 1996 when I had my first forum running for office. So this means that I've spent 26 years in the Iowa legislature, 20 in the Iowa Senate. So I would be running for my next 4 years, which would add up to 30 years in the legislature. So it's been quite a run. And before I came here, I just started thinking about what were the things I have been involved with. And I came kind of like Jerome, worked at John Deere, very active with community service, spent 20 years volunteering in Waterloo and the Cedar Valley, was on the visiting nurses board, chairman of the board for 6 years, active at Hardman Reserve Nature Center, got involved with environmental education in the school, started the Earthworks program, was recognized by Roger Peterson's book, Roger Troy Peterson, the Bird Book guy, as one of the top environmental education programs in the United States. So it's a great honor for that. Once I ended up getting into politics when Don Schultz asked me, because Senator Harper was retiring. And so I filled her spot in the Iowa House. And little did I know that I would still be here after all this time. But as a labor background, I served on the Business and Labor Committee and really got work a lot on the business side of things. And I have the view that in order for workers to succeed, businesses have to succeed, and workers contribute to the success of a business. So it should go hand in hand that workers are being treated fairly. Unfortunately, over the last few years, I view a war on workers occurred in the legislature with cuts to workers' compensation, unemployment benefits, some of the training stuff that was available time frame wise. But and unfortunately, we've really swung more on the business side of stuff. But during that time, some of the things that I've done is worked on the historic tax credit program, which rebuilt a lot of Waterloo, took the historic tax credit program from $2.5 million to $50 million a year. And I created after going to a forum with a creative investment forum with Richard Florida, who wrote the book of Rise of the Creative Class. I started looking at targeting resources and created the cultural entertainment districts that Waterloo and across the state have to try to focus on investing in those areas. I worked on the Main Street, a Vision Iowa type program, CAT, worked on with Senator Dvorsky to create RECAT, the River Enhancement Community Traction Program. Great places. I ran the Iowa Speedway legislation, and Senator Hancock invited me to speak with a couple who were thinking about did purchase the Field of Dreams. And so I met with the Tillman family here in Waterloo and had lunch with them. And from that point in time, I worked on putting that bill together, same type of tax structure that the Field of Dreams had. And so I'm already on about 4 minutes over. So it's a good thing I just put that thing up. I got, at the closing remarks, I'll tell you about the other half of stuff. But that was a pretty amazing success, the Field of Dreams program. And, the thing is, I think that when you're in the legislature, you need to work and focus on things that are going to move Iowa forward instead of things that divide us like cultural wars. And that's where I'm coming from. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you, Bill.
A couple of things I forgot to mention at the beginning of the forum. Our timer this evening is Jerry Hageman. We thank him for his good timing. Derek Wolf, who is also a candidate, could not make it this evening. He had a prior commitment. And now I just want to put in another plug for questions. Be thinking of some questions, raise your hand. Pat will give you paper and then pick them up again. So please be thinking of some questions. Now, I have a couple of questions I'd like to ask the candidates. The first question, and I think we'll start with John this time. The question is, what is the most crucial problem facing the state of Iowa, and how should it be resolved?
I kind of touched on it in my introduction there. I really think the most crucial issue facing the state of our Iowa is kind of the tribalism going on between, the two parties in power. I'm not here to attack anybody today. I met everyone and everyone seems like good, down to earth people. And, I think they have what's right for Iowa on the top of their mind. But I just see no one wants to reach across the aisle and make those changes. So, the worst part is it really spills over into all issues, whether it's education, taxes, the environment. See just the up against each other, causing problems in all of these areas. I just don't know, like going back to education, how we got so caught up in which books we're banning or which bathrooms people are using. And we forgot about the main objective of education, which is to form well-rounded, employable young adults with life skills who can, conquer complex issues that come up. I also don't think the top-down nature of our laws really works. I really believe in Iowans. I think they're, good at doing their job and capable. Like, for instance, teachers. I think we get so caught up in standardized tests and, curriculum just to check some boxes. And I just think teachers know how to teach. They know how to do their job. It's almost disrespectful, that we're asking them to do all these things when if we just got out of their way and let them do what they did, I'm sure the results would be a lot more positive for everybody. You saw it in this Piper Lewis case that came up recently where she's ordered to pay $150,000 of restitution to, former rapists. And do I think the judge wanted to make the ruling in that case? Of course not, but he has to hold up the law. That's his job. It's not his fault. It's a stupid law. And there's no way to get around that. And I think if we stay out of people's ways and let them do their job, more often than not, they're going to make the right decision for Iowa. I'm not blind. I know almost all legislation is written with the best intentions in mind. No one is out there for malicious reasons or anything like that. But more often than not, that unintended consequences almost always outweigh the benefits. And like I said, I just believe in the people of Iowa and they're able to make capable decisions on their own, and we shouldn't get in the way of that. So what do I think is the most crucial issue facing Iowa? It's politics, honestly.
Thank you. Kimmy?
Well, I've been pondering that, Jean, since we got the mail from you, and I wish I could sit here and tell you that we had one big problem, but we don't. We have several. I'm going to start with, I think when we go back, women's healthcare choice. I think that's going to be a huge problem. And I don't think it should be a problem. And I think women are quite capable of making their health choices. And I took time this summer to visit the Planned Parenthoods and the Guiding Star and all the different programs, the Family Planning Center at Allen, and all those places that work with women to help them make the decision that's right for them. And those are all different. What's right for me is much, much different than anybody else in this room. So everyone has that right to choose. So I think that's one huge problem that we're going to have to address. And I think it's going to be probably early in January that is going to come up. And we're going to have to really talk about the ability of women to make their own choices. And they're quite capable of doing so. Mental health. Bob and I have worked endlessly on mental health at all different levels and stages. I was actively involved bipartisanly on the mental health structure for children. And it's a good structure, but we have yet to fund it. So it's not doing what it should do. I was with IJAG students at East today, and I shared with them a story, and I'll share with you how this mental health is not working for our children. We had at one of the local hospitals, a young woman who was 16 years old who had mental health issues. She needed bed, she needed treatment, and she lived in the emergency room for 13 months. Wow. Let me say that again. She lived in the emergency room for 13 months. So the mental health system is not working for our children. They need to have treatment. They need to have treatment in Iowa. They need to have treatment in their town, not in Illinois, not in Sioux City, not in Nebraska. They need to have a bed where they can become healthy young adults, and they need their families as part of the treatment plan. So mental health for our young folks is vital. I'm working with the Youth City Council group, and Bob and I had them down last year, and they plan to come down again this year. Just suicide prevention, one step forward, but they're getting the QR codes on the back of student IDs. And actually the new superintendent in Waterloo approved that, as did the superintendent in Cedar Falls, and they're working with the superintendent in Hudson. So this small group of students is starting to make some change without legislative impact, right? We would like to get legislative impact just so we can say, all schools just do it. It's the right thing to do. If we save one child, it was worth a little sticker on the back of an ID. It doesn't cost the state anything, and it won't cost the schools anything either. So it's a good thing. Health equity. Health equity is huge, and it's something that I work on almost daily at the clinic where I'm at with Nafisa, who unfortunately is leaving us, with BlackHawk County Public Health, but across the board. And so those are issues that we have to work with. Again, I have had conversation with Joel Fry. He is my Republican counterpart. Of what can we do to get more funding and more services in? So I think that we're on a starting flame there, and I think that he understands that we need to do more. And I think that I can find the money faster than he can, but we'll continue to work towards that. And then just lastly, the school funding and the students. I was at East today. I wasn't there yesterday because it's not air conditioned. It was hot today in there, but that's one of the things the student asked me. When we get school funding, where does that money go? Because they don't see it helping them at the school. They don't see it in their books. They don't see it in the environment that they're studying in. And so I think that's an issue that we want to kind of look at and tackle as well. There's more, but I'll take my time another time.
Thank you, Timmy.
Bob?
Okay, well, thank you. And Timmy, I look forward to serving with you in the next legislative session. Particularly, we work really closely on the mental health issue. And one of the big issues that people are facing with mental health resources is getting access to services. It's just the number, we're at the bottom of ranking when it comes to other states with regard to critical care access, early intervention, psychiatrists, psychologists. We're at the very bottom, and there are some things that are making their way, but we have a lot more to do on that. I think one of the areas that we did was telehealth. That has helped get more service to people across the state, but we have a shortage of people that go into that profession. And one of the areas I think it would be a good approach would be to offer some payments back to those people to stay in Iowa. Because right now they're leaving the state. Part of it's more money, more pay. And so that's a big issue. I would share that I'm on the transportation committee, and not sure what's going to happen, but Iowa's infrastructure is failing. And we need to look at ways, and thankfully the federal government brought some dollars down to address some of those issues, but bridges, roads, all those things are, and those are a key element to our rural communities. Railroads are another area that play a vital role across the state of getting goods and services across the state and to others areas. So those are are critical going through this process. I would share that, and I remember when I first got down there, Bill's been in there longer than I have, but I've been there a few years. The other issue is the political divide. I wish we had an answer to that. Because I remember when I first got elected, we would go down there, we'd disagree, maybe argue, but at the end of the day, we'd say, hey, let's go out to eat somewhere. Let's go have a beer. Let's relax. Find out about your family. What are you dealing with? You know, all those things are so gone from the process. And I just hopeful that it comes back, because I think it improves the process. It'll help this country. It'll help our state. There's just a lot of things that we can focus on legislatively, you know, and that's the other thing. How are we going to focus legislatively on key issues impacting Iowa? You know, it seems like, and I see he's got the thing up, that we have really, I got a few seconds. We have really focused on the corporate structure in this state and not necessarily the daily people that are out there trying to make a living. You got childcare. We've got insurance issues. You know, if you look at that as a family, it's fairly a big expense. So thank you again, and look forward to your questions.
Thank you. Kate?
Well, I kind of like Timmy, I'm going to kind of piggyback off what she said, that if there was only just one issue and we could just work on that one issue and fix it, but there's not. And actually getting out and talking to people that live in my district, you start to hear recurring themes of what people are talking about and what they're concerned about. And I think any issue that the people that you represent are concerned about should be the biggest issue that you're concerned with. So the recurring themes I hear, absolutely mental health. It's in crisis mode, not only in our state, but across the country. But we are consistently in the bottom of those polls in access to and availability of mental health care for not only our young people, but our older generation too. Everyone that you talk to, it's just a concern. Our schools being funded properly and making sure that they have what they need to not only, let's face it, we're raising kids that are going to have to deal with a world we can't even imagine how that world is going to change. It's changed so much since I was in school that I can't imagine what these youngsters are going to have to deal with. But we need to make sure that the teachers have the funds, our public school teachers have ways to educate these kids to prepare them for that, for whatever we know will come up. Women's choices, people are scared. They're angry that it's not about, the abortion issue. It's not about that. It's about a woman's right to choose and a woman's right to speak with her own doctor and make those choices. Rural healthcare, people out in communities that they want to know when they call 911, somebody's going to come help them. I live in a community that's fortunate to have one of the best volunteer fire and ambulance departments. I would put them up against anybody in the state, but they still need more. They need our help. Broadband services. One of our communities doesn't have people that will move there. I mean, they do, but they cannot add broadband. They can't add internet to new homes through certain companies unless they get, satellite internet. That's a problem. Who wants to build a brand new home and not have access to broadband internet? Childcare, knowing that you have to make those decisions on where, when you can go to work because of childcare. It's just a huge thing. And I think people are so frustrated with politics that it's hard to get people involved, whether it be to volunteer, whether it be to voice their opinions, whatever the case may be, and that level of disrespect that has gone back and forth between those parties, not just here in the state. And I like to think that Iowans have that level of respect, but across the country and in the politics world right now. It's a tough world to be in and people are sick of hearing about it. But on the other side of that, they need to be involved and they need to know what's going on. So I think the more transparency we can have and knowing what their issues are and continuing to talk with our constituents that actually live in our districts and making sure we represent them well is what those major concerns are and how we're going to accomplish that.
Thank you. Bill?
Okay, thank you. Well, the question was, what's the most crucial problem facing the state of Iowa and how it should be resolved? We've heard of all kinds of issues that are out there, but in my view, a lot of it's going to take resources to be able to invest in it. And my view, the number one issue facing the state of Iowa is the shortage of talent and qualified workers to fill the jobs that we have. That is what drives our economy. And so when you talk, we hear that, you know, people don't try to reach across the aisle. Well, that's all I've been doing for the last few years, trying to reach across the aisle and getting people to listen to facts and what's out there. And I've been talking about this since I got elected, about what we need to do to head off the oncoming workforce shortage. I mean, when I was on the Private Industry Council back in the 90s and mid 90s, we had all the data saying we were going to have a workforce shortage in the state of Iowa. With the aging population, the slow growth, we needed to do something. And a person who's been on 38 rag rides and spend my summer riding with the young people, you know, I know what young people want, and Bob knows it too. So one of the things that I said, here's 3 things we can do to alleviate the Iowa workforce shortage. One, we need to invest in cultural events. We need to do more bike trails. We need to do the water trail stuff. We needed a whitewater course. That's the RECRAC program that I worked on. The response from them was 0. Now, the governor's running an ad saying about the big spenders in DC, but she's using money to do placemaking that's putting 100 million federal dollars out in the state that what we should have been doing on our own a while ago. I created in the Iowa Senate the Enhanced Iowa program that would have took $25 million a year, every year from the ending balance after every bill was paid. And then we looked at the ending balance, and if there was more than 100 million sitting in there, we would take 25 million and move it into these type of projects. What would happen? Passed out of the Iowa Senate almost unanimously, got into the Republican-controlled Iowa House. They stripped that part out. So too late to do that. It's going to help us down the road. Every state in the union's competing for people. What we need to do now is look at how can we get young people into Iowa and keep them here. The University of Northern Iowa is key. 51%, almost 51% of all the graduates from out of state stay here in Iowa. Okay, how about keeping out of state tuition and Iowa student tuition low so we can capture those young people and show them what a great community we have? Number 3 strategy, let's get to work on daycare in Iowa. People are coming and looking for jobs here and they're going, where can I take care of my child while I'm working? Well, the state didn't invest beans in that. Oh, federal money now, we're going to have that on the short term. What's going to happen down the road? And thirdly, we should have been investing in housing because we have a tremendous housing shortage in the state of Iowa. Those were strategies I got up and talked about in the Iowa Senate in front of everybody and went in there on a Friday when only the leadership was there, Senator Chapman and the majority leader were there. And nobody else, I was the only Democrat. And I laid the whole thing out to them. You know what I got? Crickets. When it came to the end of the year budget, nothing. So you talk about reaching across the aisle and focusing on one strategy, corporate tax cuts to the richest Iowans. That isn't going to get us where we need to get. A little frustrated. Thank you.
Thanks, Phil. And Jerome.
Down, kick it in for now. All I can say at this point in time is, wow, you know, I look like For those of you that don't know, I don't have an opponent for the House 62 position. And I'm so looking forward to getting down there, good Lord willing, don't rise, as far as working with my constituent. You know, I'm listening to all of this and everything that I am hearing. I've been in contact with the folks down at the state level, and they've sent me information as far as what we'll be working on and all those things. And all of these things that they're talking about are things that are important, you know, and one of the things that I didn't hear though, and Senator Dossler, thank you for years ago getting me on that workforce development. For those of you that don't know, I spent 5 years on the Iowa Workforce Development, chaired it for the last 2 I was there. And back then, it was a labor business type relationship. And I remember Senator Dossler, he took me to those Association for Business and Industry meetings so that I understood their aspect of things. So I got both sides of it, even though I was representing labor. And my understanding now, and Senator Dossler, correct me if I'm wrong, it is no longer that way. Labor doesn't have a say-so. I think that's totally wrong. I think we need to have a voice from a labor standpoint within the legislature down there so that the people, the working people have a voice. Right now, they don't have it from everything I'm seeing. You know, I'm a Democrat. I make no bones about that in any way, shape, or form. I have been my entire life. And one of the things that I do know is that I'm a Democrat for a reason. You know, I'm a research person. I believe in looking, researching, finding out, not just doing things blindly. And I hope people are listening and they do the same thing. And if you do the research, go to both parties' websites, look at their platforms. We all know what platforms are. Those of you that don't, it's about what the people are actually wanting in those particular parties. And like I told you when we first started this, I'm a union person, have been my entire life. When you go to that Republican Party's website, and I'm not making this up, right in their platform, it states eliminating public unions. Should not be happening. So for me, I believe in workforce development, like Senator Dossler said, that's going to be the economic driver, getting the people trained in this state so that we can attract business to the state. When I was on the Workforce Development Board, that's what was supposed to happen. And it was happening. There were training programs. I remember, I believe it was $1 million was given to a training facility down there to train workers to do exactly that. There was a program that was put in place to where they went right into the prisons and trained individuals that were coming out of prison so that when they came out, they were being beneficial to the communities that they lived in. So for me, workforce development is a big one from a standpoint of what is important. But like Timmy says, there are so many different issues out there. And I know that just from the research, from talking with folks and everything else. But one of the biggest things for me is the frustration that Senator Dossler talked about. Sat on a city council for 7 years. And for those of you that don't know, by law, city councils are nonpartisan. So I've worked with Republicans, I've worked with independents, and yes, we do not agree on everything. There's been many times where it's been, well, we agree to disagree. But what I'm telling you is that when I get down there, I'm going to do exactly what Senator Dossler is doing and reach across the aisle. My thing will be is look at that man in the mirror, see what you are thinking, and don't forget about the average everyday man.
Thank you, Jerome. Next question. Why should we vote for you? Convince us that we should vote for you. Timmy, do you want to start?
And
Tap on that microphone to see if it's working. Doesn't sound like it's.
Yep.
You gotta go again, Jerome.
Oh,
I feel like it's.
This one works. That's what you heard was built out.
No.
Do you need this one?
On that.
Okay,
Pat, what is this
yeah, maybe that was.
battery problem? Pat?
Maybe my battery
Let's see this one.
died in my bubble machine.
Here, this one.
Oh, okay. So,
we'll pass it down.
well, All right, better? They're fine. I think we're okay. Yeah.
Use your outside voice.
Here's my outside voice. Usually I raised hockey players, so usually you can hear me. Because I had to get their attention somehow. So why should you vote for me? So I'm finishing my 4th term. I'm a team builder and a community builder. I've shown that in many ways in our community. I've brought our community together. I'm working with our city council and our mayor on a regular basis, working with our county supervisors to make sure that we're working on legislation that benefits what they're working on at home. Yeah, working with our nonprofits and hooking them up with the services that they need and with other people that they need. So our county attorney did a lunch and learn for some of my nonprofits because there was just a miscommunication there. So that we were able to solve that. Working in the schools and getting connected with the schools, working with the IJAG program, of which is my favorite program, by the way. I ride with the Waterloo PD. I'm married to a firefighter, so very connected with the fire department. So really the whole goal is to be that community and team builder. I do that at home, I do that in our community, and I do that when we're down at the State House with all of our legislators. We in the caucus this year, which I'm very proud of, it's always been kind of my motto, is people over politics. And that's always been my goal, is to make sure that I'm reaching to the constituents here at home. And so I've never been the yes man. I'm not a yes man. And I will never be a yes man, but finding that key person, and I have key people. We used to be a Representative Heaton, now it's Representative Fry. Finding those key people that I can work across the line to get legislation done. You have to do that. Right now we do have a toxic environment. If you choose to fall into that, we have, we have a right wing, we have a left wing, we have a group that just, I don't know, they just want to be on their own. But there's folks in the middle that want to get things done and move things forward. And that's how we got the food bank passed. I had to find my team players on the opposite side, got my team together in the caucus to move that forward, Bob and Bill on the Senate side to move that forward. And we worked together and we got that done. It took a while. Everything down there, though, takes a while. So unfortunately, nothing gets done quickly at the State House. But if you find the team players, you can do that. I've successfully done that, and I will continue to successfully do that. The child mental health program, we've got the structure. Now we got to get the funding. I was appointed by the governor on the child mental health board. We're moving baby steps. I would like to move big steps. Obviously, that system doesn't move that way. So I had to adjust, but I know the adjustment and I know who my team players are and I know how to get things done. And we are getting things done. Not near as quickly as I would like to, I will give you that. And one of the things that our people over politics, this from a caucus standpoint, is lowering costs for Iowans, reproductive freedom for women, investing in public schools, and legalizing marijuana. Those are the 4 things that our caucus is individually working on. But my base is much wider than that because I have to make sure that I'm reaching the needs of all our constituents. So I will obviously work on those 4 topics, but there's a lot more that we need to work on. And when we met with IJAG today, one of the things we talked about is I need you to stay in Iowa, right? We don't have a beach and we don't have a mountain. So how are we going to stay? So we need to pay. We are a low wage state and we're an old state, which means we're losing our young folks. So we need to change those things. We need to pay people, we need incentives, and we need to make sure that they want to stay in Iowa and build their families here. We need the young people in Iowa. We don't want them to move away. So I'm thankful that John stepped up to do, when we need that, that's what helps us grow and that's what will keep young people in Iowa. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob, why should we vote for you?
Oh, is that mic?
This mic works now,
Oh, okay.
we think. We're just yelling.
Well, I think they can hear me without a microphone. They're trying to videotape this. I think that's the strategy here. Well, it's kind of an interesting question. Because I've over the years, and Roger White played a big role in my first go round. for election, but I've knocked on thousands of doors, literally. And one of the, that process of door knocking is one that you get to know what everybody is thinking, not necessarily what one party's thinking. And it's kind of an interesting discussion to have that occur. That, overall, I've worked closely with my community. I mean, as far as events go on in the Cedar Falls area, I'm at a lot of those things. And it's interesting to be able to hear discussions from people. And, one of the things that I've learned in this process is that when you go up to somebody and talk to them, you don't know necessarily what's occurring in their life. I mean, you don't, and you have to respect that. And, there's people that are dealing with healthcare issues, money, loving, maybe a marriage is falling apart. You just got to keep that focus when you're discussing issues with voters. So, and I've tried to do that. And I think overall, I've reached out to a lot of voters in my district. I don't have an opponent this election cycle, but I'm still working within the community. So I'll continue to do that. And I guess the other thing is I'm involved in several committees here in the community. As a matter of fact, I had a Zoom meeting today, and then I had one yesterday. Those are all ways that I can be educated so that I can know what's really going on. And, I don't believe in this fake information stuff that we're hearing or talking about teachers. They're sinister. I'm sorry. How many in this room has been in a classroom in a teaching setting? It's not an easy job. I have the utmost respect for teachers. Yeah. That, they have a difficult, my wife worked in education at Pete Junior High. So, those are all areas I think that are critical, and, people can vote for me if they want. And it's, voting, if you look back to the history of voting, it was something that was respected, was required. My dad told me when I was a kid, Bobby, do you vote today? Well, I haven't, Dad. He said, well, get over there and vote. And I got to tell you, voting is a right that we all need to take advantage of in this state. So hopefully, and look forward to continuing serving the people of House District 75, people of the state of Iowa, and for everyone else, I think it's critical. Thank you.
Thank you. Kate, why should we vote for you?
I have spent the last decade of my life working in local government, building relationships, joining boards, joining commissions, being a member of the community, volunteering my time at different events, and trying to make where I live a better place. And that's what I want to continue to do for the entire state and represent our District 76 that we live in and play in and work in to the best of that ability. I joke sometimes that a legislator, and I'm sure everyone up here will agree with me, you cannot be an expert at absolutely everything that's coming in front of you every time you're there. But what you can do and what I'm good at is being that relationship builder and being able to know my contacts, know my experts, and know the people I go to. I couldn't have better mentors than the people that are sitting here right now, our current legislators that are here. To know how things work, to have those relationships and be able to build upon them. But also, when I spend my time out in the community, when I spend my time knocking those doors, making those phone calls, volunteering at those events, I'm also making notes of people that are in positions that can help give me the knowledge that I need to when those questions do come down in Des Moines in the legislative session. Because like I said, you can't be an expert at everything, but what you can do is you can know who you can go to help to make the right decisions and to speak with people that are here to make sure that you know everything that affects. And I think I have the ability to do that. I have the ability to speak up when things aren't right, which I know is every legislator that is in Des Moines. I also have that ability to work across the aisle, I hope. We, maybe it's a naivete a little bit before you get there, but my job is to represent, and my job is to make sure that I continue to be transparent, continue to talk with not just before election season, but after election season too, with the people that live, work, and play in District 76, as well as all of Iowa. And to know who they can come to with their own concerns as well. So that's why I'm going to be a great legislator.
Thank you,
Because
Kate.
what do winners do, Bob?
They win.
That's right.
Bill, why should we vote for you?
Well, because I talk a lot. Let me say this, I think you should vote for me because I'm a futurist. I take a look at what's coming down the road. I think the role of the legislator is really to try to move our state forward by knowing what the challenges are going to be before they hit us, because it's already too late when that occurs. And I think that I have the experience over the years of having the opportunity to learn from people. And Kate's right about what she's talking about. She's got the right kind of attitude. When you go to the legislature, that is a new thing. There's so many issues. You have to really focus, but you need to listen to people who are experts in the field. Too often we have people who get elected and do what somebody's telling them to do without researching it themselves. And I think that's a big problem. In the Iowa Senate, it's straight across the board. One party votes one way, another party votes the other way, except for when you're in the minority, there's a lot of people that go a certain direction. Even when we were in the majority, we had members of our caucus vote against some of the leadership's ideas. Not in the Republican Iowa Senate. They say that they got to support each other. They'll come up to you afterwards and tell you, you're right, but, we had to stick together. Well, when you got members that we're at 18, there's 50 of us there, you got plenty of room to vote your conscience in the Iowa Senate. Unfortunately, they don't. So I think that that's one of the main things. You also got to stay away from political punching people in the nose, and I don't do that. I always talk about issues down there. I talk about what we need to do to move Iowa forward. And if it's helping business out, right. If it's standing up for workers who have their wages being taken away, it's passing wage theft legislation. It's staying active in your community and listening to experts. I'm on the Iowa Innovation Council, and the technology that's out there is really scary. And we are really hurting for the kind of talent that we're going to need to deal with the next stuff. How much time we got?
About a minute and a half.
Okay. I can fill in 5 more minutes. So the other thing is, I've been there for you every time. I have never missed a vote on the Senate floor in 20 years in the Iowa Senate. I've been there every single vote, And many times I never thought I was going to get up and talk, but I did because it was about our community or somebody didn't know what they were talking about. And it was like, well, here we go. So the thing is, I've been there, but I'm also staying active. When I was on the initial board of BlackHawk Leadership, back then it was called LIFT, Dr. Robert Terry came and he was a leader expert from the University of Minnesota. And he said this, the world is run by those who show up, people who are there to be a voice, those people who show up to learn from other people who are experts in the field. And I've done that. I mean, I'm on so many boards, I've almost lost track. But the Iowa Innovation Council, Small Business Development Board, the Institute of Decision Making, the State Workforce Board, and I could go on with a bunch more. And I ran out of time, and thank you, Jerry, for keeping me on track.
Thank you. Jerome, why should we vote for you?
I guess I'll use for me, the reason that you should vote for me is because I have a desire to serve. I have been a part of this community basically my entire life. I have, from a standpoint of when I've been asked to step up, I will step up. I will do the things necessary to improve the lives of everyone. So for me, my experience and investment that I have in this community, that makes me the best candidate for this House position. Once again, I did not have an opponent. It really surprised me because I figured I would have one. But like I say, for me, it's my plan is to work for all of the citizens of Waterloo, not just those in my district, all of the citizens in this state. And I truly hope, I might be a little bit naive, but I truly hope that those that vote for me also vote for people who think like me. You know, for me, I had this vision of a change in the power structure down in Des Moines. I really do. I think that if we can, as a House of Representatives group, make some changes to some of the things that have been introduced, I firmly believe that we can make a difference in this state. You know, like I said, for me, I do these things because I want to see this community that I live in get better. I want to see more people coming into this community. I have children that live in this community. I have children that have left this community. And one of the things that I firmly believe is that if we can make this area, this state, a better place for our young people to come back to, they'll come back in droves. They will come back home. You know, my grandchildren that live in this community, I'm doing it for them. You know, I'm not a young man. I'm getting up there in age. This is my first experience at this level. But I have worked in this community to make it a better community. Some of those things that Senator Dossler talked about at the state level, we're doing those. We have moved things forward so that we can make it better. Well, there's nothing wrong with doing it at the state level and making sure that at the state level, we are doing the same exact things, because I know living in this community, things are so much better. No reason why it can't be at the state level also. So for me, it's just a matter of, I feel like I'm that person who can make a difference. And that's exactly what I'm going to try to do.
Thank you. John, why should we vote for you?
Well, I'm here today, just like everybody else, because I want to see what's best for the state happen, what's best for this community happen. Bill paints such a bleak picture of how the legislator works down there. I wish that wasn't the case, but from what I've seen, that's the truth. And you know, I'm running as a libertarian, and I think one advantage that gives me over, you know, some other people is I'm not beholden to, you know, a bunch of other party members down in the legislature. Right now, the House is 100% either Republican or Democrat, which I see as a problem. There's no outside voices. And like I said earlier, I'm not trying to attack anyone, or you guys all seem like, I mean, very, very well versed and, you know, a lot more experience than me, I'll be honest with you. Like Kate said, I don't pretend to know everything. You know, but I believe that, you know, I will make the best decisions for what I see fit. And it's kind of funny. I used to be when I tell people I was voting libertarian third party, I would always get well, you're just throwing away your vote. You know, you're just voting for Trump, or you're just voting for Hillary, and, you know, your vote doesn't matter. You know, and that doesn't matter because I believe what I believe, and that's how I voted. You know, as I've gotten a little bit older, I'm turning things around. I tell them that they're the ones throwing away their vote. So, and yeah, Bill, you can have some more time. I'm not gonna, I'm making it easy on Jerry. But like I said, I just want to see what's best for the community. And, you know, I think we need to make some wide scale changes for the better of everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Now it's time for your questions. And Bob, we're going to start the first one
Okay,
with you, okay?
We want 2 minutes.
2 minutes out.
2 minutes probably.
30 seconds.
No,
All right.
2 minutes, okay. This is the question. How do you work for public education and discourage public funding for private schools?
Well, public ed has been the Walmart of this state. I mean, if you just look at the number of public schools that exist in this state, and then the private school, I went to private school as a child growing up, but the numbers are pretty significant when it comes to the you know, the schools, the resources. You know, you think of the teachers, the paraeducators, the staff that are there, the bus drivers. All those are very critical resources to make education work. And I serve on the College of Ed Advisory Committee, which what we've seen with education, there's a big downturn in the number of teachers wanting to be a teacher here in Iowa. I just saw recently the state of Texas, or a group, they're coming up to UNI to recruit teachers that are graduating from the program at UNI. And their recruited effort is more pay. And, you know, you graduate from college with the cost and everything. And the pay in Iowa could be better. So I think overall, I've been a strong supporter of public ed and will continue to do that. You know, if you look at the dollar amounts that the state provides for private, it's about $100 million a year already. So to say that private schools aren't getting resources from the state is totally inaccurate. So thank you.
Thank you. Kate?
Just as Bob was gonna just alluded to, that was gonna be my first step. I am not saying that we should take money away from private schools. Private schools do get state tax money. The $100 million a year is what private schools get, is last number I saw as well. My mother was a private school. My mom and 3 of her sisters all were private school. Growing up, they all attended Catholic private school. But until we can fund our public schools with public tax money, we should not be concerning with private schools that members of a community have a choice on where to send those children to. And you have every right to send your child to that private school. And I support that. I support what your choice is. But until we can fund our public schools, we need to concentrate our public tax dollars on those schools to make sure, like I said earlier, we're preparing kids for a future we can't even imagine. And that scares me to a point that we need to take care of those teachers who are teaching these kids and show them the right way to do things so that they also want to stay in Iowa, so that we can have people to fill the jobs So we can have people to encourage new jobs, so we can have those innovators. Kids today are smarter than they've ever been. But we need to equip them with the tools they need to succeed, not only in the state, not only in the country, but in the world, because it is going to become a world market. So I absolutely support our public schools and our public tax dollars for those public schools.
Thank you, Bill.
Public education is one of the founding centers of our democracy, our Republic of the United States. The founding fathers really focused, and if you read the book about John Adams, about how important public education was and how the religious movement is one of the things that they wanted to make sure that we had a separation of church and state. And today we are starting to see some of the evangelicals, their thought process in the types of schools that they're trying to start out are not focusing on the same type of education that you get in a public school. I'm not talking about Catholic schools. I went to a Catholic school. I attended some of the classes at Columbus and their science classes, top-notch stuff. But when you look at some of the charter schools that they're trying to start across the state, and you look at the amount of technology that's there, out there in the business world, and we're trying to encourage businesses to get and lead in public schools and try to educate with the new technologies, they're not going to do it. They can't do it. And then Bob hit on the busing issue. I mean, how far are you going to have to bus? And are we going to consolidate schools farther and farther? Taking money away from public schools is a real problem. Teachers should not have been demonized in this state. And our leader, Senator Chapman, was the president of the Senate. He went where he should have never went. And I know how difficult educators have a problem of dealing with students. And to try to claim that they were trying to brainwash students in pornography is just disgusting.
Yeah.
And that is one of the main reasons that teachers said, I've had it. I'm not going to take this anymore. I can find a better paying profession somewhere else.
Thank you. Jerome?
Everyone's for me, when you talk about public schools and then the vouchers for private schools, one of the things that I think about, and I've had this discussion with a few people, is I remember back, I graduated in 1972. Back then, there was, Iowa was what, #1 as far as our public schools? And right now, I believe we're like 20th. Well, like everything else, it requires dollars. Myself personally, I've been blessed to be able to, when I retired from John Deere, is actually come to Hawkeye Community College and do some teaching. Started in 2013. And every year, the program that I helped set up, the amount of time spent that we were allowed to spend teaching was cut less and less. This is every year. Well, that was the dollars that was coming from the state. And for me, as a state, we need to provide even more dollars than what we are providing before we even think about adding more dollars to the voucher system. We have from a standpoint of me personally, the very last class that I taught, we had that conversation. And the bottom line is that's what needs to take place, sitting on the Waterloo City Council. You hear complaints all the time about taxes. But everyone needs to understand that those tax dollars are used for providing the services necessary. So for me, that's what has to happen. We have to start increasing the amount that we give to education and quit giving tax cuts to those that don't really need it.
Thank you. John?
First off, I'd just like to say that I think public schools are very important. And on the school voucher system, I will say I disagree with some of my fellow libertarian cohorts. I also believe that public funding should not be going to, fund any private schools. I just can't get over that fact. And as a whole, I think we know our education system here in Iowa, as Jerome said, we used to be #1 back when I was growing up in the 90s, and now we're, drifting in the 20s, 15 to 20 somewhere. I think our education system as a whole needs to be looked at. Times are changing. The technology that's out there is crazy, and we need to keep up with everything that's happening in the world. And I think we need to have wholesale, lots of changes made. I'm struggling here. And some things I would like to see happen is, teaming up with some local businesses, maybe in schools, and maybe some job training when kids are in juniors and seniors. Like I said, we are definitely dealing with a labor shortage as well. And I just don't think you can judge a fish by how well it can climb a tree. Just because someone doesn't do good in academic settings doesn't mean they're not really good at something else that other people struggle with. So I just think getting kids out there not only helps the labor problem, but also, helps the kids in the education sense and helps them compete in a global market.
Thank you. Timmy?
All right. So I want to just make sure we all understand, we do give private school, we give them for their books, transportation, and special education. That's what that $100 million is. We also hear that parents should have choice. We do. So that's already exists. Parents do have choice. Us personally, our son went to private school, he went to public school, and he did online schooling because he was a traveling hockey player. So that already exists. So you could already do that. And we have, and I have supported tax credit for the private schools parents when they do their taxes. We've increased that number so they get more of a tax credit kickback that send their child to private school. So we do our diligence when it comes to that. What we don't do is we don't do our diligence when it comes to our public schools. We have given them less than when we fund our schools, it has been at such a low rate that our schools still aren't able to get new textbooks in their classrooms. So, and the other thing that we're doing by doing this is we're killing rural Iowa. So if we drive across Iowa from stem to stern and you look at the communities that have lost their schools, they have lost their community. And many of my colleagues are rural representatives, rural senators. And what you're doing by underfunding your public schools or collaborating communities is you're really killing rural Iowa. And so we really got to think about that. The other thing that we have going on that is horrible is that we're underpaying our teachers and all our auxiliary staff that's in our public schools. Don't forget all the people that keep that school running. So we're just cutting there, and we have shown just a lack of respect for our public educators, and we have micromanaged what they have to do and can do or can't do in the school, and we need to stop that. So those are the kind of things that we're doing. We will continue to push for public schools, and hopefully we will get somewhere in the long run as we kind of restructure that.
Thank you, Timmy. We have one last question, and I want to honor this. And because we have one contested race here tonight with two opponents, we're just going to ask those two people this question, if that's okay. Okay. The question is, what do you think of the governor's plan to have one director for the Department of Public Health and the Department of Human Services? And John, let's start with you.
Repeat the question for me, okay?
Okay. What do you think of the governor's plan to have one director for the Department of Public Health and the Department of Human Services?
Okay. Well, I'll be honest. This isn't one of my, main talking points, and I'm sure Timmy is a little bit more well-versed on this issue with her background. As far as the public health goes, I think it's very important that people get a choice what happens with their public health. Overall, I mean, I believe in the right to personal property, and what greater personal property than your own body. I think when we start making decisions on what you can or cannot do with your own body, we're setting a pretty dangerous precedent. And as long as, we're protecting that healthcare freedom, I think that's the direction we need to move it to. Thank you.
Thank you. Timmy?
But Director Garcia and the governor are always looking at ways, right, to save money, but not spend it where they need to, in my opinion. So this came about, and I can be honest, I was very opposed to it initially, because I felt like our public health providers were really going to kind of get pushed to the side. Now, DHS and public health, they are two separate bodies. They function that way. They have overlapping gaps where they work together as they should. And so when they put them all under one tent, my biggest concern was, how is my public health people going to feel about that? Are they, and initially they were all feeling, pretty slighted with that whole transition. I spoke to a gal though, just a couple of weeks ago, and I said, how are you doing? How do you feel? And how's this transition going? And she said, it is starting to move forward in a positive manner for us. I've spoken to Nafisa, our local, and we still have concerns about how this is going to go, but it is starting to move forward. The conversation and the communication has become more transparent. I think that's going to be the key for the two agencies. They're going to have much stronger communication than they ever had before. Maybe that's a good thing. They're going to have transparency on which each agency is doing. Again, maybe that's an okay thing. But they also need to keep their identity, because what they each do is very important. And so we're going to have to really watch to make sure that each agency is keeping that identity alive, so that moving forward, the people in the community are getting the treatment they need, and that it's not getting washed over by the identity of DHS or by public health. And the fear here is that the public health will get washed out. And that's what we're going to have to really watch for. Nafisa put out a fantastic report on health equity, and we have to make sure that we continue to get this information, that we can work in the community with our public health providers to serve the people in each community, and each community is very different. And so this is something coming from our public health that we need to make sure that the DHS doesn't shadow over.
Thank you. Now it's time for closing comments. If we could be brief with that would help, since we're almost at our 8 o'clock hour. Sure, go ahead, Bob.
Okay. Well, hey, thanks, everybody. I know I was out mowing my lawn the other day, and I noticed these colored leaves laying in the yard. So that's a pretty good indicator of a change that's going on weather-wise. I'm an avid bicyclist and got out and did some biking today, and you can just see the things changing in the area. I would say that one of the things that you should consider is requesting an absentee ballot. And I know that the Blackhawk County election system has a new website up there. You can go to that website, you can click on that red bar, and you can request an absentee ballot. Because what I said earlier, voting is a critical issue within our state, our country, and everybody needs to vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Kate?
Just in closing, I first of all want to thank the League of Women Voters of the NAACP for sponsoring events like this and being here tonight, and to each one of you that made the commitment to come here, as well as anybody on Facebook world as well that is tuning in to listen to this. And I hope people go back and I hope they watch it again. And I hope they truly listen to what's being said. And I hope they pay attention to who is out in those communities and who is speaking with the residents that live in your communities, and having that transparency, and who has done the work to put in to earn your vote every single cycle. Like Bob said, the most important thing that's going to happen is we need to have people actually go to those polls and vote.
Yeah.
So everybody that can tell 1, 2, 3, 5 of their friends to say, you need to make sure your voice is heard this election. And this is what I know, or sharing those social media posts to get the word out about how important this election is. Because it is one of the most important elections, I would think, in the last however many years. We need your support, and we appreciate everything that everyone tells us when we're knocking on those doors and making those phone calls, and anything we can do to help make Iowans better is what I think everybody on this stage tonight wants to work for. So WyattForIowa.com is my website. I have to push that plug in too. So thank you again.
Thank you. Bill, be brief.
Be brief.
Yeah, thank you. And I again want to thank the opportunity to represent Blackhawk County and Waterloo. Predominantly, that's my new Senate district. It's mainly Waterloo, except for a little bit part of Southwest Waterloo. Just one quick comment about the director. I think it's a mistake. With the health department focused on disease and the type of things that are going on in this world with communicable diseases, and the Department of Human Services and dealing with what they have, I think they're going to get overshadowed. I think they should maintain separate. I know that it might save for the cost of a director, but I know for a fact the Department of Human Services is hiring a lot of middle managers right now. So I don't know where the savings are going to be. And then just finally, thank you. I think Bob hit on it. Make sure you get an opportunity to vote. Watch, get your absentee ballots in a timely manner. It used to be 40 days you had to be able to get a ballot and vote over a 40-day period. Now it's only 19. So you got to make sure you get it done in the right amount of time. And thank you, Jane, for being there for us. And thank you for keeping track of our time down here. Appreciate it.
Thank
Great
you.
job, Bill.
Jerome?
Like everyone else, thank you, League of Women Voters, NAACP, for putting this on. It's an opportunity for me to get the word out and stuff. And I have been just talking from the heart here, but I'm going to read something here that I kind of put together that I want everyone to understand and listen to. And I have seen the issues that face our community up close, and I've seen the way our community has changed over the years. We need to expand economic opportunity by encouraging workforce development and providing our workers with living wages. We need to protect our labor unions and restore earned unemployment benefits. Okay, those same benefits that were gutted by individuals earlier this year. We also need to seriously invest in clean energy throughout the state. Our rural and urban communities alike are experiencing the effects of poor water quality and climate change. We must get creative to provide renewable energy sources to leave our state better for the next generation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John?
Again, I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and everyone else for stopping out and, giving up your time to come out. And I wish we would see more young people at some of these events. That would be nice. But I just want to kind of remind everyone that in these days where, everyone seems to be at each other's throats, one side or the other, that what we really need is healthy conversation. Just because someone disagrees with you doesn't mean they're attacking you personally. And I just think that the more healthy conversation we have, the better we're going to get some of these complex issues solved. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And Timmy?
All right, thank you, everyone. We'll round it up and thanking the league and NAACP, Facebook Land, and all the folks that joined us. We really appreciate all of your time. We all appreciate serving you, and I look forward to serving this team going forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you all for coming, and please join me in thanking our candidates for being here. I just want to announce that there will be another forum on October 3rd, same time, same place for our county candidates. So plan to come to that.